What up, is me, Meto Otaku Gamer here, and in this video, I want to talk about my favorite console of all time, that being the PS2. This is my PS2 Slim that I currently have. I also have a fat model PS2, but I currently do not have that on hand. That is currently in storage right now and is in need of repairs. So this is my primary way of playing PS2 and even PS1. Something I didn't know before I bought the PS2 Slim is that it is backwards compatible with PS1 games. I originally thought that it was only the fat model PS2 that was backwards compatible. But yeah, I have so many fond memories of the PS2. My first time getting my hands on a PlayStation 2 was back around the year 2006. I was in middle school and I had just gotten home from school that on whatever day it was. I don't remember the exact day, but I do remember coming home and seeing that there was a PlayStation 2 out of the box. I didn't have the original box because my parents had bought one from a pawn shop. They did something very sweet for me and got me my first ever PlayStation 2. And I hooked it up. And I think I had some PS1 games at that time, so that's what I played. And then the very next day, I came home, and the one game for the PS2 that I really wanted, Ape Escape 3, was there sitting for me. And I played it for hours and just absolutely fell in love with the game. And speaking of Ape Escape 3, I want to share with you guys my top 20 PS2 games in my current collection. There are some games that I really enjoy that I do not have currently. Those being Sly Cooper 1, Sly Cooper 2, Jack 2, Mega Man X7, and X8. I currently do not have those in my collection at the moment. I used to at some point, but I just don't have them right now. Hopefully I will be able to acquire those soon. So starting off, I want to share with you guys my top 10 non-JRPGs, and then I'll have my top 10 JRPGs, because Japanese role-playing games make up the majority of my PS2 collection, which I will eventually be going over in a multi-part mini-series here shortly. I'm not going to talk a lot about these games because I don't want this video to go on for an entire hour. So starting off, and these are mostly in random order. Starting off, I have Namco Museum. Reason I chose this is because it has the original PacMan and Dig Dug, which were two games that I grew up playing a lot of on PC via a MAME arcade emulator. I really love both of these, and yesterday I was playing a little bit of Pac-Man Arrangement and made it to about round 22 per se. This also has Galaga and Galaxian, two other games that I grew up playing. So this is mainly just a compilation of games that I've played as a child growing up, as well as Miss Pac-Man. Now, I haven't played Pole Position 1 or 2, and that's also included in this compilation. So I might try that out next time I play this. And yeah, that's Namco Museum. Next up is Devil May Cry. I haven't finished this one yet. I've played it about halfway through, and what I did play, I did really enjoy. This game definitely shows its age, and I would love to try out the HD collection on the PS4 someday. And I will be getting around to finishing this up. I might even try playing it probably sometime within the next couple weeks. I have some other games that I'm currently focusing on. But yeah, I really do love the Devil May Cry series, and this is the first game in the series, so this is technically speaking where it all started. In-game universe-wise, that would be Devil May Cry 3, because it's a prequel to this game. Yeah, I do really love Devil May Cry. Next up, I got Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, my favorite in the entire franchise of Metal Gear. I almost finished this game. I know I still have my save file from the last time I owned this game, because I did get rid of it, but now I have it again. I have it complete. Can't remember if I had a complete copy the last time. It's been quite a few years since I last played this, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it and finishing it up. I love this game, despite the fact that you don't really get to play as Snake throughout the entire game. I might be one of the few people who actually really love playing as Raiden, as the main character for the Tinker. Not the Tinker, but the main mission of the game. Because there's the opening mission, which growing up, when I first got into Metal Gear Solid 2, I never was able to finish that mission because I just didn't know exactly what on earth I was doing. But now, as an adult, I was able to surpass that and even make it as far as I did. I've probably spent about 10 hours in this game. I'm not 100% sure on that. I know it's felt like I've played at least 10 hours of this game, and I loved every single minute of it. This is one of the best games on the PS2 that I've ever played that is not an RPG. If I were to put this in an actual order, this would definitely be number 2. Now, I couldn't have a top 10... Well, I couldn't really have a top PS2 games of all time without having at least one fighting game. And out of all the fighting games on the PS2 that I currently own, the one that I've definitely spent a lot more time in and actually really enjoyed is Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution. I haven't experienced everything that this game has to offer yet, but when I did play of it, I played about a few hours of the story mode, and I really like the kind of simplistic nature to this game. It's not like too combo heavy, or like, to me it feels like I don't really necessarily need to have like a fight stick in order to play this properly. I could play it with just a regular controller and really get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And I'll definitely be playing this a lot more soon, because I am starting to get the itch to play some fighting games. I also have a couple King of Fighter games as well, and a Guilty Gear game. But for PS2 fighting games, this is one of the best that I've played. Next up, got PacMan World 3. This is another game that I have owned multiple times throughout the years, and actually never gotten around to finishing it. But this time around, I'm sticking through this. This is one of the few games that I have on my playlist right now that I am currently playing through. I have gotten a bit further in this time around than I have in the past. I think the last time I owned PacMan World 3, I made it up to the first boss, but never actually was able to beat that boss just due to the fact that I didn't know exactly what I was doing in order to beat that boss, even though it's very simple. Past me just didn't really know what I now know today. And I really do enjoy PacMan World 3. This is the first Pac-Man game that I know of where there is voice acting in it. I don't remember if there was any voice acting in PacMan World 2, which is another really great game. I do love that game. That would be considered an honorable mention, but I do not have it in my collection as of now. I also played the hell out of the original PacMan World, which I don't really have a desire to have the original PacMan World now that I have PacMan World Repack on PS4, which is a remake of the first PacMan World game. And there is a part of me that hopes that Bandai Namco could remake PacMan World 2 and this game. It would be so much fun to be able to play those on modern consoles. Now next up, one of my favorite Sonic games, that being Sonic Unleashed. This is another game that I haven't finished. I know I haven't finished a lot of the PS2 games that I have in my collection. I am eventually going to get around to finishing these. But what I've played of these games, I really did enjoy. And the same can be said about Sonic Unleashed. There isn't really much else that I want to talk about that, because I really want to get through this. Next up, got Jak 3. Also got Mega Man Anniversary Collection. I love the Mega Man series growing up, and I mainly Mega Man X, but I wanted to include this because it has one of my favorite arcade games that you can unlock in this game, and that is Mega Man The Power Battles. I played a lot of that on the MAME arcade emulator that I had on PC as a child. I played the hell out of it. Now, you do have to play through one of the Mega Man games in this collection in order to unlock that. And there's another unlockable arcade game, which is the sequel to Mega Man The Power Battles. So just because that alone is why I really love the Mega Man Anniversary Collection. And as far as I know, sadly, those two unlockable games aren't available in the Legacy Collection. Or else I would definitely have those games in my collection. But I am really happy that I have the Mega Man Anniversary Collection on PS2. And I even have it complete. Next up, R-Type Final. This is a recent addition to my collection. I really love shmups. I am starting to want to start collecting more and adding more into my collection. And this is one game that I haven't actually played prior to owning this, but I did play this for a few hours yesterday, and what I did play of it, I really do like it a lot. This is a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, so it's not like a top-down style. And this was originally intended to be the last game in the main series for R-Type, but now they got R-Type Final 2 and R-Type Final 3 Evolved. But I'm really happy to finally have R-Type Final in my collection, and it's a really fun game. There's almost 100 different ships that you can unlock, and you can customize the ships with different loadouts, and there's a couple different modes that you can play. There's a store attack, there's the main like story mode, and then there's like a versus AI mode. They have a gallery, like an art gallery, where you can unlock different like artwork and all that. There's just plenty to do in this game. This game has high replay value. Pretty much any shmup has high replay value. That's why I really like R-Type Final. My last non-JRPG, and one of my favorite PS2 games of all time, it's Ape Escape 3. This is the best in the series, and sadly this was the last in the mainline Ape Escape series to be released here in the West. Hopefully Sony will eventually make Ape Escape 4. They've been teasing that game for years, and as a huge fan of the Ape Escape series, I really beg you, Sony, please make Ape Escape 4. Do not let this be the final game. I mean, if you do, at least it is here in the West. At least the Ape Escape series will be going out with such a masterpiece of a 3D platformer. I love every single bit of this game. Even the mini games, as well as the unlockable Nestle Gear Solid mini game, which is a crossover between the Ape Escape series and Metal Gear Solid. Hence another reason why I would probably say Metal Gear Solid 2 is my number 2 non-PS2 JRPG of all time, with Ape Escape 3 being number 1. So speaking of JRPGs, I'm going to go through that pretty quickly. Starting off is Front Mission 4. I am a huge fan of mechas, hence my name being Mecha Otaku Gamer. I don't normally talk a lot about mecha and why I really like that genre of like anime and a lot of mech-based games, even though I don't really have a whole lot in my collection currently. But I have seen a lot of mecha anime. I do plan to rectify that and share a bit more into what about mecha I really love. I also have a bunch of mecha model kits, but yeah. So, Front Mission 4, this is a mecha turn-based tactical RPG. I've made it about halfway through the main story, and some of the missions can take upwards to an hour or more. Where I'm currently at right now, I'm stuck on a boss fight mission. A mission where there's a significant boss fight that will be tough, so I'm definitely need to get back into this and spend some more time in it to prepare myself for that boss fight so I can continue on. Next up, got Shining Force EXA. Now this game, I really love it. Even though there's some major issues with this game, I will go probably more full in depth on this game as well as the other two Shining games on the PS2 in a later video. But this is one game that I really want to finish, but I'm stuck on the final boss, and I will talk more about that in a separate video. But this is a really fun action RPG. And luckily, this game was at least popular enough to have the two main characters appear in the Project Cross Zone game on the 3DS. Next up, got Radiata Stories. I owe a lot to this game. This game got me through a burnout period in my life a couple years ago where I was just experiencing JRPG burnout. And then I got into Radiata Stories, and it revived my love for JRPGs. This is a very fun, quirky, not too serious action RPG by Tri-Ace and Square Enix, the makers of the Star Ocean series, which Star Ocean, till the end of time, is my next favorite JRPG on the PS2. This is a game that I spent 4 years, yes, 4 years playing through this, off and on. There was a year where I just took an entire break from playing games, so hence why it kind of took me about 4 years, technically 3 if you don't really count that year off that I took off. A year of that was mainly because every time I got into playing this game, I was on the final boss and I just kept getting beat over and over and over again. And then eventually I realized, well, maybe it's because I was underleveled, which turned out to be true. I grinded for a couple hours, a couple years ago on Memorial Day, and then I eventually beat this game. And I love it. Major plot twists and all. This is a really fun game, and it's still pretty cheap for a PS2 RPG. Next up, got Wild Arms 4. This is the first in the Wild Arms series that I actually finished, which I almost didn't finish because the second phase of the final boss is a pain in the ass to beat. I got game over like 50 times before I actually was able to move on to the final phase, which the final phase was hell of a lot more fun to beat. And I was able to beat it on my first try. Well, the third phase on my first try. Next up, got Rogue Galaxy. One of the best that the PS2 has to offer. And a game that still holds up to this day, in my opinion. I love this game. It's another action RPG. I love action RPGs, where you take on the role of Jasper Rhodes, who joins a ragtag group of space pirates as they try to stop a corrupt intergalactic company from finding this infinite source of power and whatnot. There's a bunch of other stuff that goes on in this game. I might potentially try to go a little bit more in depth in a future video on Rogue Galaxy. So if that does happen, stay tuned for that. Next up, .GU Volume 3 Redemption. Now, I love the entire .GU trilogy, and out of the trilogy, Volume 3 is my favorite. It has some of the best story moments in the game, some of the more tougher boss fights. Haseo, unlocks his final form in the original PS2 trilogy, which being the X form that you see on the cover art there, and he becomes a dual gunner, which to me, I find that to be hella badass. I love using the dual gunner abilities and whatnot. I just love everything to do with .GU. It is one of my favorite games of all time. Next up is Artanoto 2 Melody of Metaphallica, a highly underrated PS2 RPG. This is a turn-based RPG and one of the very few turn-based RPGs that I absolutely love to death. The story, albeit can be a bit confusing to follow, does eventually get really good after like the first 10 hours or so. This has some of the best character development, in my opinion. It has plenty of fan service if you're really into that. There's a lot of like sexual innuendos and whatnot. There were definitely a lot of moments in this game where it made me question exactly what type of game I was playing. The combat is very fast for a turn-based RPG, and I am currently playing through the first Artanoto game, but without a doubt, I definitely can say that Artanoto 2 is way better in a lot of regards to the first Artanoto game, even though that game is also pretty good, but I'd still prefer 2 over the original. Next up, got Sakura Wars, Salon My Love, another mecha-based strategy RPG that is also a visual novel / life simulator type game where you take on the role of Shinjiro Taiga, a Japanese military officer who gets transferred over to New York and is assigned to be the new leader of the New York Combat Review's Star Division, which is made up of 5 lovely girls, with the main heroine of the game, Gemini Sunrise, being one of my favorites in the entire franchise. I really love the story of this game. The combat is pretty fun. The boss fights are pretty tough in this game. Luckily, I was able to make it through the final boss in the game on my first try, and I ended up getting Gemini's ending. There's multiple endings to this game, depending on which of the 5 girls in the Star Division that you have the most connection with. Which there are times in this game where you have the choices on what you do and say do matter in regards to the relationships that you build with your team members. And I just really love the Sakura Wars games. Now, my final favorite PS2 game, and this is my favorite game of all time, that being Tales of the Abyss. Which, for the sake of this video already going on for a little bit longer than I wanted it to, I will hold off exactly as to why I love this game, because I want to go full all in on a full review of this game, which I have attempted on this channel before, but I felt like it just didn't really do the game justice. So eventually, in the near future, I will attempt to do a full discussion / review of Tales of the Abyss. And I know I have talked about that game quite a bit already on my channel in one of my previous videos. So yeah, I really do love the PS2. There's just so many good games that I have in my collection that I just really love. And sometime down the road, I may even update this list with even more PS2 games that I love, because there's just so many other good games on this console that I haven't gotten around to playing yet. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.